Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here with another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight we're working on a two-page layout from a single-page sketch. So I went on the internet and I borrowed this sketch off the internet, and the credit is given to Lisa Heidi or Hitty. There's her information there. So we are going to be using this sketch to create a two-page layout. So what I've decided to do is I'm actually going to do this on the right hand side, and then I will flip that whole thing for the left hand side. My theme today is birthday, and my granddaughter's birthday way back when. And I have a few things with me, and I'm just going to show you what these are and how we're going to lay it out. So the first thing I had to do was figure out how many papers I needed. So I looked at the image and I saw that I needed one paper for the background. I needed a second paper for the two large panels that go underneath the photos. I needed a third paper for the dark piece that goes under the photos, and I needed a fourth paper for directly under the three photos. Now these three photos don't have mats, so I'm all good with that. And then I kind of just matched and assumed I'm going to use this color as this little tag, and number 3 is going to be this little piece that sticks out here. So that was how I figured out what papers to use. So I literally pulled from my scraps a bunch of papers, and let me see if I can get them in the order that I pulled them. For my base, I wanted to use something that was simple, and so I pulled out, and the nature of my photos, they're a little on the brown side due to the cabinetry in the photographs. So, before we even go there, I should probably tell you how I made the decisions in my photos. Here's my granddaughter's, the first half of the birthday anyway, the first two-page layout. So I have a picture of her, and I have a picture of her with her opening up her birthday present and finding the cash and finding the present and then looking at the present. So I had a total of 6 pictures. This is why I picked a 3-picture sketch. Now, it's not going to play out exactly the same because I am going to put 3 photos on one side, 3 photos on the other side, but I've got this really big photo. So we're going to have to manipulate this a little bit more. I do like to have different size photos. I often will have a 4x6 and 3x4s and 2x3s all mixed in together on a page. But for today, we're just using a 4x6 and several 3x4s in our photos. So back to our pages. What I chose for the background, because of the brownie tones, is this pretty peachy color. It's not really showing to you as a peachy color, but it is very peachy. It looks kind of pink online. And I also, for number 2, chose this really pretty peachy colored plaid. So that's my second bit. And then for my third bit, I chose something more solid and a little bit darker for contrast, still in the ranges of colors that I'm working with. And for my fourth piece underneath, I wanted a little bit of spunk. So I chose a coordinating paper pack that goes with the rest of the papers for underneath the photos. Then I just randomly pulled out colors that would match the balloons. I obviously didn't have 2 colors the same here, but they kind of are in the range of the 2 different colors of balloons. I've got the blue and I've got the red. Now, whether I use that or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The other thing that I pulled out is a title. Now, my pictures are going to be slightly different. and my title is already pre-made. So I am going to stick this title at the bottom of the pages on top of the plaid. And then for the little itty bitty bits, the little flowery bits, I'm going to cut up some of this other border to create those elements. And then just in case I need a little something something, I've got some not coordinating, but similar colored items that I can throw in on the page that have to do with birthday. And I've got this little sentiment as well. It's your special day. So we'll see if those play in or if they don't. I am going to pull this apart first of all. I'm going to start with the right page first. And I am going to pull out one of my sheets to work on. So there is no instructions to this, so I have to kind of guess at what's happening. I often do the math right on the sketch. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking if this is 12 by 12 and I'm not going to include the black outline, then I probably have, looks like an inch up here and an inch down here. So that makes this, what would that be? So 12. So this looks like it's a 10-inch piece. And each way, if I look at that, it's kind of tight, isn't it? So maybe we'll reduce that to 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. It's just a little bit easier. 3/4 of an inch, so that's an inch and a half. So 12, 11, 10.5 inches. That might be a little better to give us some space. And we probably have, let's see, it looks smaller on this side than on this side. I'm going to go with that because that's going to be the edge that matches with the other page. So I'm going to put that at a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to put this side at 3/4 of an inch to match what's going on. That again, let's see, that gives us an 1.25 inches, and I'm going to take away 1/4 of an inch from here, so it's going to be 1 inch. Okay, wait a minute, I'm confusing myself. So this is an 1.25 inches and that's an 1.25 inches. So if we take, together they're an 1.25 inches. From 12, that brings us to 10 3/4 inches, but I'm going to make this 1/4 inch in between, so it's 10.5 inches again in total paper. And then I'm going to divide that in half. Okay, so let's see if that works. First thing you need to do is get your cutters out. So my 12 by 12 piece, and I've said that it's going to be 10.5 inches. And I am going to go right into that and just dive in and take the plunge. We're going to cut our piece of paper. I think I want it that way. 10.5 inches. There's our piece off. And then the other way is also 10.5 inches. These pieces I can use on another layout because I do have two 2-page layouts for this particular event. So that goes in that pile. And then I'm going to cut this 10.5 inch down to 5 1/8 inches. That's one side. And then this is going to be 5 1/8 inches. And then that will give us our space in the center. So this was 10. I cut it 5 1/8 here, 5 1/8 here, which left us with this strip of 1/4 of an inch, which is going to separate the paper. Yes, did it the way I thought I was going to do it. Now remember, I have to repeat this on the other side as well. So this is where we're at so far with our 1/4 of an inch in between. And I actually am liking it. I think I've done a good job in terms of translating what I see in the picture. Okay, so now let's move on to paper 3. Paper 3 was this darker paper. And if this is 5 1/8, so that becomes 5 1/8. And what did I say? That was 10 1/2. So I'm looking, if I shift that up there, we're looking at 2/3 of that 10 1/2. So what is that really going to look like? Okay, so could that be, if we make this 1/2 inch down, so this space here is a 1/2 inch, and then this piece is going to come down, and this looks like it might be 3 inches maybe. So let's make this space 3 inches. We're just going to make it what we want. So that leaves us with, I think, a 7-inch piece. And then by, this piece was 5 1/8, and I'm going to say, because we made that 1/4 of an inch, let's make this 3/8 of an inch on either side. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 3/4 of an inch altogether. So 3/4 of an inch off of 5 1/8. That 3/4 of an inch off of 5 brings us to 4 1/4. 4 3/8 is what I'm looking for here. So 4 3/8. And let's see if I'm right. So I've got this as 7 and 4 3/8. Let's just put the ruler up there and see if that looks about right before I do any cutting. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so we're cutting our 7 inches. Let's do our 4 3/8 first, because then we have more paper saved. 4 3/8 is about there. And this is going to be 7 across here. And this little piece I'm going to use for the other bit of orange that I need. Now let's see how that looks. So that's a 1/2 inch. That might be a little small, but you know what? I can circle it in there, and I have room for my title at the bottom. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm okay with that. All right, so then the next step is we have to get this big piece here. So I'm thinking, oh, I just noticed there's another piece. Ah, what is that similar to? Can't be a 4, can't be a 3. I might have to find something to remember that. Okay, so I'm just going to use my fingers. This goes here. This goes here, so it is bigger than that piece. I'm going to say that this piece is the same width, 5 1/8. So we're going to call this, where am I going to write it? 5 1/8. So if this is 7 inches, this is more than 7 inches. So the width is 5 1/8, and the length is, I want to say, if I shift it a bit to take up right to the end there, I'm going to guess it to be halfway is about there, so 6. I'm going to say 8 inches. So this is 8 by 5 1/8. Let's get our ruler and see if that makes sense. So that's coming over here a little bit. And our 8 inches comes into here. It might actually even be a little bigger. Let's say 9 inches. I think 9 inches we're going to make that. And then if we do the 5 1/8, we'll get a little bit of that and some hanging below, and that should be good. 5 1/8. Okay, so we're going with 9 inches by 5 1/8 inches. And this is paper number 4, which is our balloon paper. And again, we have to make sure that we do this cut right. So I'm going to cut it So I'm going to turn my page 1/4, and I'm going to cut the width 5 1/8 so we can save as much paper as possible. And then I'll turn it back and do the 9 inches across so the balloons are in the right direction. That's the thing we have to be cautious of. And I said it was 5 1/8. There we go. And this nice piece is good for our next, the other side. And I said 9 inches. So let's see how that looks when we get it laid down. Now remember, these aren't exact. If we have it exact, it's something like that. That's like that. And then this piece goes across somewhat like that. Move it up a little bit. There we go. Move it this way a little bit. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now I need to figure out what that piece is, and it could simply be the back of one of my papers. And then we have the little bits, because we have done all 4 papers. Let's see what we have the back on all of our papers to get us this little questionable strip there. So I have red that I can pull out. That's kind of fun. I have blue that I can pull out. I think that might be a little pale. And I have, ooh, definitely not that one. So let's put that one completely away. Blue, I feel, is just going to be a little too pale. I like the red. It has a bit of punch. So let's grab a piece of red. And this one is already short, but it needs to be longer to go across, so that one we can't use. And that piece looks to be about a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm going to take that 1/2 inch from here, and then we can trim it down. There's our piece. This goes back in the pile for the next layout. All right, get my layout to one side here. Let's organize these pieces again. And now this piece is going to actually start at the bottom there. Oh, that's nice, yeah. And it's going to stop a little ways in. So let's see. That looks to me like 1.5 inches off the edge here. 1.5 inches I'm taking off. There we go. I might keep that, you never know. For now, anyway. And now this piece goes. Whoop, everything's shifting around. 1/2 inch. And this piece goes there. There we go. So we have the basic structure of what's happening here in the photos. Now we're just going to add these little pieces here. I'm guesstimating that this piece looks to be the same width as that piece. So I'm just going to do my little finger movements. Yes. So that's going to be 5 1/8. Let me write this down so I don't have to do the math again. So 5 1/8 is the width. And let's see, what is that? That looks about pretty much about the same. So that looks like 7/8 of an inch. So let's do that. 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we are doing that out of paper number 3, which is our orange. We should have a little piece of that somewhere. Oh, there it is. And it's already 5/8, which is awesome. And there's our little piece. Now, on this number 4, it has a corner round, which I think is okay. So this is our little piece that goes from here in, sort of down there. This I'll put back. And number 4 is our balloon paper. And number 4 is just a bit bigger, a bit wider. And it looks to be, if that was 7/8, this looks to be about a 1/2 inch, just a little over 1/2 inch. So let's make it 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to round the corner edges. I want to show multiple colors here. So I'm taking the side that has the blue in it. I'm going to cut 3/4 of an inch, and oh, but that's going to get rid of my balloon. All right, can't use that one. I am going to measure 3/4 of an inch because my trimmers don't show me that small. So let's just do that on the back. No, so if this is 1/2 an inch, this is bigger than that. So this is 5/8 of an inch I'm looking for. All right, 5/8 of an inch. And we can always trim it back if we don't like it. Now I can see my lines. 5/8 of an inch with my little blue balloon on there. That was really important. And this is just a little bit bigger than the other one. Perfect. We're going to round those corners, the upper corners, since we have it in our hand. Little tiny corner rounds. I have dog hair on my, everything I own has dog hair. That looks a little bit big, doesn't it? And that might even be a little bit big. So I'm just going to trim, nah, you know what? I'm going to leave it as it is. And this goes here, this goes right off the edge. And this goes there. So I do need to trim a tiny bit off the side here. So let's take a look at what we have. Oh yes, that looks much better. Okay, so there's the base. Let's get this down so that we can move on to the other pieces and what we're going to do with the other pieces. All right, so I said 1 inch all the way around, I think. And it's going to be important to get this lined up properly. So I'm going to take this off so I can use my mat, and I'm just going to put a tiny bit of tape up at the top here. I put it across my pants so that I could make sure it didn't stick too much. All right, now, so if that's 1 inch and that's 1 inch, I am definitely not 1 inch. I am 3/4 of an inch all the way around. Because that's 3/4, that's 3/4. All right, so let's lay a few things down. Okay, so there we are with that. And then the next thing we're going to use is the dark one. And the dark one we're going to center across the upper top. I'm satisfied with that. And then we're going to put this piece down. And this is like 1/4 inch from the edge and maybe 1/2 inch from the top. Something like that. There we go, I just committed. So that's our 4. And then we need our little piece at the bottom, which is very easy to put on. And it doesn't have any arrows or anything. It's just going to be a blunt end. But it is going to go along the bottom of this piece of paper. This is where I need to figure out where the happy birthday is going to sit. So if I have happy birthday at the bottom, it's going to be straight. And, well, if we have the bottom straight, then I guess we have to have the top straight too. So if I have that and that at the bottom, then I have my orange piece here and my tab that goes on top up there. Am I liking that? Or the other alternative is to move this up here, and then I have my tab piece. Move it right up here. You know what? I think I like this even further up so that it's touching that red. There we go. And then we have this here because then we can play with the little things that we're going to add. So let's put a couple of pictures in there and see how that's going to work out. So if I have the big picture on here, like so, with this going across the bottom of her legs, and then the happy birthday underneath, and then we can have this piece here and this piece there, because it does go off the page in my photo. So if I go over here, no, I'm not liking the happy birthday up there, it's too much. And then we have our little bits of stuff, because we can put a nice big one there. And then I can have a spot for some journaling here. I think that's a better work. All right, perfect. So let's get our happy birthday put down. And this I'm going to actually glue because I don't want to crush it. So I'm just putting glue on it. Sorry, I'm just a little bit low on the page for you to see. And I'm going to line that up again. And figure out where I have to meet. There. There. Is that going to work? I think it will. And then afterwards, I'm just going to take my fingernail and curl up the bottom little flaggy bits so that there's a little more dimension. So let's put this one on. There we go. Our happy birthday goes across the bottom. Again, I'll turn up the bottom edges. And this is where we're going to add our little tab area. Okay. So now I'm going to grab a group of things. So I have a big something that's going here, something that's going here, small, medium, large. All right, so I'm going to fussy cut these. This is the thing, when you buy kits and stuff, you don't have to keep things the way they are in the kit. You can totally change them to what you need by altering them, by trimming them. So that one will go in that corner. I think I want 4 over here. So this is a natural cut because that one's tucking underneath. And this is a natural cut. So this can go down here. So I'm going to have to trim this away, which means this no longer can sit as it is. So I'm going to trim this away here. And I think I'm going to stick that on there and trim that away. There we go. So I'll do a better job of that. But that gives us our larger compilation of things. Yeah, okay. So we're going to trim this more neatly. When I do my trimming, I always move my piece rather than my scissors, so you may have noticed that. There we go. That one is fine. Okay. So there's 2 things. There we go. All right. Now, do I want those guys up there and these guys down here? No. So before I put these on, I am going to make sure all the little bitty bits, oops, got myself attached, are off. And I just realized that I'm going to have to save something of these for the other page. So I will figure that out, but let's put our photos on. And I think we'll keep this for the other page. And I need, maybe I'll put it's your special day there, or one of the other sentiments. So we'll figure that out in a moment. Am I liking this? Yep, I think I am. All right, so let's get this one stuck down. Been finding lately that 4x6 photos are not being cut very square. It's the 3 that go on the other side. And then I'm going to glue this down because I know I'm going to put some sort of sentiment there. All right. So I think, do I put that there? Let's take a look at these sentiments. What do I have? I can put happy here. I think I'm going to fussy cut this. So something like that. Your special day. Just to give it a little bit more. Or your special day. No, I think I'll put it over here. I like it right under that picture. There we go. I think I'm going to pop dot it. I've got little tiny pop dotty things here. And I always use the edges because they're pop dotties too. Okay, those little guys off. Focused under the photo, sort of halfway. There we go. All right. So at this point, I'm going to say I'm finished with this side of the page. Now I'm going to create the background in reverse for the other side of the page, and then we'll just finish up the decor so you can see more quickly how the 2 pages work together. All right, so here we are back, and you can see that I have flipped the layout so that I can finish this side. And I have these photos, and I'm going to arrange them this way rather than straight across the top because I need to fill in some of the space in the bottom. So sometimes you do have to make adjustments as you go. This one I want to put right underneath with a little bit of outer space. There we go. And these 2 I'm just going to center in this space. So let's see, something like that. There we go. Now, this I want to put up at the top, poking up out of the picture. Yeah. So we're going to glue that one down. There we go. Those guys go up there. And then I want a couple of sentiments. I have to remember that I've got to keep some of the sentiments for the second page. So I'm going to put, oops, right along the bottom here, opposite this and sort of centered with that. Oops, this isn't cut very straight. Let me just line it up there. I'm going to put a couple of sentiments coming down. One more. And that's going to go over there, I think. I should use my tweezers. Then I can actually line things up better. There we go. So we have 3 little sentiments there. Now, when I look at the 2, just need a little more pop. Something maybe right in here. So I think I've decided I'm going to shift these, put them in a different location. And I haven't left them on there too long, so that should be okay. And I'm going to put my journaling there. So my journaling is going to go in here. It's going to be a smaller piece. Might start up on here and drop down. And then these guys I'll figure momentarily. So I'm just going to write my journaling. Here I have my finished journaling. And I want to kind of put it so it's got a little bit of a border all the way around. And so that we're centered on the page a little bit. There we go. We can do the hip hip hooray. There we go. All right. So there, let me raise my camera just a little bit so you can see them all. Here is the 2-page layout. based on a one-page sketch, mirrored, and ready for putting in the album. I'm loving it. So if you like this video, please feel free to share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my videos at the end of the video, under the video in YouTube. See you next week.